Up to now, we have discussed several methods of structural analysis, and all of them essentially work through the method of consistent deformations. So basically, so if the structure is determinate, statically determinate, it can be solved directly, for example, using the moment area theorems or conjugate beam method, etc. And if the structure is indeterminate, statically indeterminate, then effectively an idea of consistent deformations is used. Okay, and all of these methods fall into the so-called category of force-based methods. And in this session, we will see a generic way of formulation of the force-based methods. And basically, these are sometimes also called flexibility methods because they entail formation of a flexibility matrix, and that is what we will see today. So basically, if we have a given structure, it can have some applied loads like P bar or M bar or Q bar. It can have some applied joint rotations or joint displacements, which are support settlements in a way, right? So it has applied loads, it has given support settlements. So basically, first thing we do is to choose redundants, right? So we convert this structure to a statically determinate structure. And we do so by choosing the redundants and removing the corresponding supports. And so let's say in this case, if we choose the vertical reactions of B and C, supports B and C as the redundant forces, so we will remove these two supports at B and C, and this will reveal two forces, R1 and R2. Now these are the reaction forces at B and C. We have assumed a downward direction here, but of course we know that in case it comes out negative, it will be acting upwards. So these two reaction forces of B and C are the redundants in this case. And then what we do is we apply compatibility, right? So we try to find the vertical displacement at B, and we know that from the so from this determinate structure with externally applied loads. So these are the external loads, right? And on the right hand side, these are the redundants, right? So we calculate delta B from both these, and we set it equal to 0 in general. And in case there is a delta B bar, which is a given displacement, we set it equal to, let's say, delta B bar. And again, we calculate delta C from both the left and right figures, and overall we set it equal to 0. So in this case, there is no settlement at C, so we will set it equal to 0. And these are the two compatibility equations. Okay, and by solving these compatibility equations, we find out R1 and R2. And once we have found out R1 and R2, we are able to do the other things. So then, for example, we can draw the bending moment or shear force diagram. So we can find out shear force, deflections, slope, rotations, etc. at any point along the beam. Okay, then we are able to just use the static analysis or the use of equilibrium equations directly. So again, just to repeat, we find delta B and delta C from here, we find delta B and delta C from here, and then we set the compatibility equation, which is the summation of all the displacements from all such analysis will be set equal to delta B. And in this case, we have also denoted these as coordinates 1 and 2. So the point B we are calling coordinate 1, and the point C we are calling coordinate 2. So these are the coordinate numbers. Okay, and in this case, D1 denotes the total displacement at coordinate 1, which is at B. So that has to be equal to delta B bar for compatibility. And summation of delta C, which is also equal to D2, that has to be 0 because there is a support, right? Now, we will introduce a new terminology here. So the structure which is considered for the redundants. So basically, when we remove all the supports so that the structure becomes determinate, right? So that particular determinate structure, so which we have used here as well as here. So the same determinate structure is used for all the analysis, and then enforcing the compatibility equation. So this structure is called the primary structure. Okay, so when we take the real structure, we remove the supports and make it determinate, statically determinate in this case. So that particular structure is called the primary structure. And we carry out the force analysis of the primary structure for the given loads as here, and for the redundants as here. and eventually we apply the compatibility conditions, and that gives us the magnitude and directions of the redundant forces, right? So a primary structure will be determinate by definition, okay, and displacements due to all the actions are computed on the primary structure, and then the compatibility is enforced. Okay, now let us consider, let us break it down into a few cases. So we are still considering the earlier structure where at 1 and 2, the coordinates 1 and 2, which were joints B and C, there were roller supports. Okay, so for the primary structure, now we have removed these roller supports, and which would reveal R1 and R2. So now we have to essentially carry out three types of analysis for the primary structure before we can enforce compatibility. Okay, so the first one is we consider the primary structure with the externally applied loads. So all the loads which were applied to the main structure, they are applied on the primary structure, and let us say we find that D1L and D2L, these are the displacements at the coordinates 1 and 2 due to the applied loads. So this will be a vector, in this case a 2 by 1 vector. So we are calling it as DIL, where I takes the value 1 and 2, right? So this is going to be D1L and D2L, right? And D1L is nothing but the deflection at point B due to the loads, right? And similarly D2 is nothing but deflection at point C due to the loads. Okay, now this can be calculated directly because the primary structure is known, it is a determinate structure, and the applied loads are known. So this is a known quantity. This can be calculated. Next, we consider the primary structure again, but with the support settlements or support rotations at locations other than that of the redundants. Okay, so if you recall, in the main structure there were two support settlements. One was at point A, so theta A was there, and then one was also at point B, delta B bar. Okay, now what we consider here is that since the point B or the coordinate 1 is one of the redundant locations, or one of the locations where a redundant is to be calculated, so in this particular regime we will not consider delta B here. Okay, this will become part of the compatibility directly. Now in this case what we do is that at A there is no redundant, so we consider the joint support moment or rotation of point A, or if there was a settlement at point A, that also we would consider. And because of this rotation theta A bar, we will again compute the displacements at coordinate 1 and coordinate 2. Okay, now since we are into small deformation analysis, this D1 delta D1L, which is the displacement of point 1 due to the support rotation, that will be simply theta A times L1, theta A bar times L1, and delta D2L will be just theta A bar times L1 plus L2. So this is just coming from small deformation ideas, geometry. Okay, so this vector is also known. Okay, so what we have done in A and B is that we have calculated the deflections due to applied loads and due to the applied joint displacements or joint rotations at locations which are not the locations for redundants. Okay, and then we will also have the primary structure with the redundant forces. So let's say R1 and R2 we have assumed like this. So now we consider the primary structure with the unknown redundant forces. Okay, and when we calculate the deformation here, let's call them D1R and D2R. So this also gives a 2 by 1 vector, let's say DIR, and this is actually unknown. Okay, now considering all of these, we can now enforce the compatibility. So what we are saying is that DI, this is the total displacement at each coordinate. Okay, so in this case we have only two coordinates, so we have D1 and D2. So the total displacement will be the summation of, so this is the displacement due to loads. Okay, and this is known. This is the displacements due to support displacements. but at locations where the redundants are not chosen, and this is also known, and this is the displacement due to redundants, and this is unknown. And this is unknown primarily because R1 and R2 are not known, right? So this is, when we enforce this, we will be aiming to calculate R1 and R2 from this equation, right? So this equation we will use to calculate R1 and R2. So this is the basic compatibility equation. Now let's consider the calculation of DIR, or the displacements due to the redundants. So here we will use the idea of the so-called flexibility coefficients. Okay, so let's now consider two structures. Again, these are the two primary structures, the same primary structures that were considered earlier. Okay, so here in first case we apply R1 equal to 1. So we apply a unit load at coordinate 1 and we calculate the displacement at points 1 and 2. And in the second case we apply R2 equal to 1, or a unit load at the second coordinate, and again we calculate the displacement at first and second coordinate. Okay, now it is easy to see that if there are n coordinates, we will have to consider n such structures, and for each structure we will apply a unit load at respective coordinates and then calculate the displacement at all the coordinates. Okay, and this F11, F21, F12 and F22, which are the displacements, these are called the flexibility coefficients, right? So this Fij is the displacement at the I coordinate due to unit force at the j coordinate. Okay, so for example, if we see F21, this is displacement at second coordinate due to unit force at the first coordinate, right? And similarly F12, this is displacement at the first coordinate due to unit load at the second coordinate. And you can easily see that due to the Maxwell's reciprocal theorem, this F21 and F12 will be equal in magnitude and direction, right? Anyway, now this Fij can also be calculated using the virtual work type method or energy method, as this Mi mj divided by Ei dx integral 0 to L, where Mi and mj, these are the moments, the internal moments in the primary structure when the load is applied at I versus load is applied at j. Okay, so Mi of x will be the moment distribution due to unit load at the I coordinate, and same thing for mj. Okay, so once we write this, we see that this d1r and d2r, right? So d1r, remember, is the displacement at point 1 or at the coordinate 1 due to both the redundant forces, due to r1 as well as due to r2, right? So d1r can be written as f11 times r1 plus f12 times r2, right? Because f11 is the displacement with respect to r1 equal to 1 and f12 is the displacement with respect to r2 equal to 1. So we can multiply them by respective redundant forces, and that will give the total displacement. Similarly, for d2r, we can write it as f21 times r1 plus f22 times r2, right? And we can repose them as a matrix vector product, where we have this matrix, f11, f12, f21 and f22 times this r1 r2 vector. So now here this r1 r2 is the only unknown, right? So this is the force unknown which is to be found, and this matrix, right, this can be calculated. So the coefficient can be calculated from that relation, and this matrix is called the flexibility matrix. Okay, now when we put this definition of d1r back in the compatibility equation, what we have is this total displacement. Now here we have also said that d1 equal to 0 and d2 equal to delta b bar. Oh, actually it should be the other way. So d1 is delta b bar and d2 should be 0. Now this is equal to so this is due to the applied loads, this is due to the applied joint rotations or movements at locations other than the redundants, and this is that dir vector. Okay, so now that becomes equal to a matrix F times a vector R, and from here we can calculate the vector R. Okay, so we can just repose using the inverse of the matrix, flexibility matrix. We can rewrite that. So this vector we are calling as D. This particular vector we are calling as DL, right? This one is delta DL, and this matrix is the matrix F, and this is the vector R, and we can then basically write this and solve for R, right? And once we have solved for R, then we can calculate other things, right? So this particular approach, the generalized approach, this is called the flexibility matrix method. Okay, and because now we are beginning to form a matrix which is the flexibility matrix of the system. So this method is called the flexibility matrix method, and this is a generalized way of this is a generalized force-based method of solving such problems. Let's see a quick example for this. So let's say this is a beam which is given with the loads as shown. So this is obviously a beam of degree of indeterminacy 3, and if we ignore the axial degree of freedom in this case, this will have two redundants, right? So there are multiple choices for redundants. For example, we can convert this to a simply supported beam, and then that will show these moments as the redundants. We can convert, let's say, this to a cantilever beam, which will show the vertical reaction here and the moment here as the redundant, right? We can convert it the other way, so in this case these two are the redundants. So there are many possibilities, and in fact this is one of the drawbacks of the flexibility matrix methods, that there are many possibilities of the primary structure. Okay, and depending on the primary structure, the flexibility coefficients will change, and hence it is a little bit challenging for this method to be programmed in a computer. Okay, but let us go ahead and see what happens. So let's say we choose the vertical reaction and moment at B as a redundant. So basically we are choosing this one as the primary structure. Okay, so we are here showing the primary structure with the redundants, and the coordinates we have chosen such that the coordinate 1 is denoting the vertical reaction at point B, and the coordinate 2 is denoting the moment at point B. Okay, and these also show the assumed positive directions. So basically clockwise moment we have assumed positive, and downward force we have assumed positive, right? So the compatibility equation will be written like this as earlier. Now in this case, since there is no support settlement, both d1 and d2, the total displacements will be 0, and this is the usual compatibility that we in general apply. So this d1L and d2L are the displacements due to the applied loads. This is the flexibility matrix, and this is R1, R2, which is the unknown. So we can first try to find out d1 and L and d2L, right? So this is the primary structure with the applied loads, and this d1 and d2L we can, let's say, find by using moment area method. We can use basically any method, but in this case we are using moment area method. So theta b will be the area of the M by EI diagram between A and B, and the moment diagram we have drawn in two different figures here, and the total moment will be summation of these two diagrams, right? So this one is due to the this 100 kilonewton force which is applied, and this one is due to the 10 kilonewton per meter of UDL which is applied, right? So from theta b we get d2L. So theta b is the rotation, is the second coordinate, so theta b gives us d2L. Now similarly delta b will give us d1L, right? So d2L and d1L we can find. So in this case we have used moment area method, but any usual method can be used to calculate these deflections, right? Now for the flexibility matrix, we will recall that this Fij was integral mi mj divided by ei dx, right? Where mi and mj were the internal moment distributions within the beam, within the primary structure, for respective unit loads at I and j, right? So in first case, we apply a unit load at coordinate 1, okay, and then we calculate this downward deflection F11 and the rotation F21, okay, and that will be the flexibility coefficient. So this we can either we can use direct integration, or we can again maybe use area moment method, whichever way it is possible. So the bending moment diagram is also shown. So similarly, for the second case, we will apply a unit moment R2 equal to 1, and then again we will calculate the displacement downward, which is F12, and F22, which is the rotation at point B, right? So this F11, F12 and F22, these can be all calculated. So they are calculated as here. And once we have all of this, we can write the compatibility. So this left hand side is the total displacement. It has to be 0 because of compatibility. Now this one is the dl vector, right? This is the displacement due to the applied loads. This is the flexibility matrix, okay, and this is the r vector, which is the unknown. Now for this r, we have to we take this on the other side and then invert this F matrix to find it. So this is just that inversion process, and once we invert, we can calculate R1 and R2, okay. And recall that since we had assumed a downward positive direction for R1, since it comes out negative, VB will be upward with a magnitude of 96.87 kilonewtons, and R2 we had assumed a clockwise as positive, and it comes out as positive, 322.91 kilonewton meter. So MB will be this value in the clockwise direction, okay. So in this way, we are able to use this flexibility matrix method in a generalized manner to solve a problem of any dimension. So the coordinates is for us to choose. We can choose any number of coordinates as demanded by the problem, and the only caveat in this method is that the choice of primary structure is not unique, okay. So the primary structure for person 1 can be different, and a different person can choose a totally different primary structure. So programming becomes a little bit difficult, and this is where the stiffness matrix method is one of the most used methods when it comes to programming and solving large structures. So with this foundation of these force-based methods and the flexibility discussion, we will in the future sessions, we will focus on displacement-based methods and eventually build the stiffness matrix method as well.